right, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I'm your host, Alan O'Rourke, broadcasting from Charlottesville, Virginia. I've got a business meeting in my real world job, so I am actually on Eastern time. So I'm on Bob Rose's time tonight. So it's a little bit different for me. It's 9:07 my time. Um,
Yeah, and I'm not in the two dudes studio this week, so
Let me tell you something before I introduce everybody. How many of you guys have seen planes, trains, and automobiles? You've seen it, Sean? Okay.
yeah, it's
I am
been a long time, but yeah,
well,
I've seen
I'm
it.
I'm living Steve Martin's life right now, except I don't have John Candy with me. So I'm supposed to fly out. I fly out Tuesday night out of NOLA. First off, I'm sitting on a tarmac for an hour. Okay, now I have a connecting flight because there is no direct flight from New Orleans to Charlottesville, Virginia. So I have to fly to, in this case, Philadelphia, and then fly from Philadelphia to Charlottesville. So I have a connecting flight I have to get to. Now, Expedia, and I'm not bashing Expedia because they're very good, but they basically booked me. Okay, you're going to land at 8:30 in Philadelphia, and then you're going to get on your next connecting flight at 9:05. Cool. So I'm supposed to board at 4. I get the alert on my phone. Oh, they're holding the plane for a little bit. It's going to be 4:30. That's cool. I can grab something to eat real quick, and then I'll be good to go. Now they're going to hold it for 5:15. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the landing time, and it's bouncing up towards 9 o'clock. So I asked the ticket guy. I said, hey man, I got a connecting flight. And I show him my little ticket. I got a connecting flight. I got to be, on this next flight. Are you dropping me off at a gate on one end of the airport, and I'm going to have to make like the Flash and get to the other side? O.J. Simpson, pre-Bronco days with the Avis guy leaping over luggage, getting over to. I say, oh no. It's the same. We're going to land American Airlines. You're on an American Airlines flight. The gate's going to be right outside there. You're going to be good. So I'm like, okay. Yes, there he goes already. Those aren't pillows. And yes, that's the point of the profile pic. My profile pic is Steve Martin standing in the rental car line where he wants a fucking car right fucking now. Which is probably the best scene of all the good scenes in that movie. That's probably one of the best scenes in that movie. But anyway, I get there, and of course, I land. It's 9:30. I'm watching my plane take off from the next gate over. So I'm like, this is great. Now, what am I going to do? So I talk to the ticket booth people, and they're like, yeah, Charlottesville's not really on our heavy schedule. We can get you there tomorrow for like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I'm like, no, man, that's no good. I got a morning meeting. I got to be there for 7:30. What's the earliest you can get me? So we arranged some stuff. So it's now close to midnight in Philadelphia's airport here. There is nobody in this airport. I mean, nobody. That all the stores are closed. Everything's gone. So I'm waiting. I said, okay, at least, they booked me a hotel. They got a shuttle. It's going to take me to the hotel. Let me go get my luggage. My luggage ain't there. Everybody else got their luggage. My luggage ain't there. There's one guy who spoke broken English who, he's like waving me in, come see, and it's now midnight. And I'm like, where's my luggage? He says, if your luggage didn't come out, what they did was they saw your tickets for Charlottesville. They just stuck it in a security area, locked it up. Everybody's gone for the night. You ain't got no luggage. You have to come back at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning to go see if you can get your luggage. And I'm like, are you serious on that? And he's like, yeah, I'm dialing every number I know. There's nobody there, but they didn't release your luggage like everybody else's because yours has a connecting flight to it. I'm like, well, everybody else had a connecting flight. Why didn't you get mine?
Wow.
So yeah, so I got to go stay in a hotel with no luggage, and put on the same clothes I had on and everything else like that. So I get to the airport this morning. I talk to the girl, explain the whole thing. She calls up. Okay, they can't find your luggage. I'm like, it's only one bag. And the whole time in the back of my head, I can hear my boss going, why do you check your bags? Carry them with you, And I'm like, yeah, this is what I should have done. This is what I should have been doing. So anyway, long story short, I'm flying back here the whole time going, oh, wait, let me back up one little step. She says, I'll call the guys. They're not there yet. They don't get there till 7. I'll call them and find out and what's going on. So she says, look, they can't find your luggage, but they said they're going to look again. They know where it's got to be. Your luggage will be there when you get there. I know how you guys been treating me so far. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in my luggage making it over there. I get on the plane the whole time thinking, I'm going to have to buy friggin' clothes. Where can I go get a hairbrush? Where can I get a toothbrush? I didn't even brush my teeth. I don't have toothpaste to brush my teeth. I don't have anything. I'm like, where can I go get deodorant? Where can I go get? I'm thinking all this stuff. I got to go rent a car. So, what? I had a car rental and I just had to switch it to this different airport because it didn't drop me off in Charlottesville. It dropped me off actually in Shenandoah Valley, which it was a 40-minute ride to where I had to go, but it was a beautiful ride and it was a nice day and I was very happy and my luggage did show up. I'm saying out there because the Shenandoah International Airport is really like a crop duster airport. I mean, there's no planes out there. I mean, there's nothing. It's this little bitty airport. So literally the security area is a guy, sitting on an ice chest. No, it's not this bad. I mean, there's no high security here. The TSA is pretty quick. It's one guy. Yeah, you look good. You ain't one of them damn foreigners, are you? No, I'm not a foreigner, sir. I don't want no Taliban go in my airplane. Yeah, no, something like that.
No, they're busy in Afghanistan right now anyway.
Yeah. You ain't that Al Qaeda, ain't you? Yeah, that kind of stuff. So anyway, I can see them offloading the luggage as I'm saying I get my rental car and everything else. And sure enough, I see my little gray bag come in and I'm like, good. I got my luggage, got my car. Yeah, good. I'm only missed the morning part of the meeting. I get there right after lunch. They already had my lunch sitting there for me. I was good to go. So it's been a good day from that point. Chad, are you an electric company fan with that intro? Hey, you guys. How many you got?
Okay.
Company? You remember the electric company?
Hey, wow. Who is the most famous alumnus of the electric company? There's 2.
2 of them? Well, Morgan Freeman, he was easy reader.
Yeah.
That's the one I know.
Rita Moreno?
Rita Moreno.
She was the one that yelled, hey, you guys, on that show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, I used to watch that show. And
Sesame Street, the electric company, and Mr. Rogers.
Yep, that was my life too. And in making a football reference, what offensive line called themselves the electric company?
Oh, OJ.
OJ. Yes,
OJ.
Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills. They called themselves the electric company because they turned on the juice.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to start doing the Jeopardy music there. I could see Sean thinking.
I knew it. It slipped my mind. So I'm sleep deprived right now. I had a long night last night too. We had a major catering at ULM today, and I went in early last night, and I had to cook 28 pork butts and 100 baked potatoes.
That's a lot of ass.
Yeah.
So Jerry's like, weird. It feels kind of weird having a show on a Wednesday night. Yeah, that's why the show ended up being on a Wednesday night, because
yesterday was Groundhog Day.
Even if everything would have gone perfectly all right, I was in the air during when the show would have been on, and there was just no way for me to set it up. And without me setting it up, Sean and Bob can't do it. So I just said, hey, let's just do it on Wednesday night because it just makes it a lot easier. I knew I'd be in a hotel, by that time. I assumed everything was going to be relatively normal for me. So, so that's why I have Steve Martin as my profile pick, because when I picked that was me this morning. I was like, really, this is just not a good day.
Listen, it's preseason for podcasts too. We don't have our Bayou Blitz up and running again. We'll have that running, by the start of the regular season. Probably the week before we'll have a regular season season preview. So we have the luxury to move around shows like that, or when we get guests or former players, both here and Bayou Blitz. We still have, because we don't have to work around NFL games on Thursday night, Saturday night, Monday night, anything like that. So we have that freedom.
Hey, the speed bump is on right now. My brother, speaking of the Ulrich curse, I'm surprised my brother's actually on, because he got hit by a car today. He's out walking a dog, and a car. He's all right, but I guess it must have bumped him or brushed him or something. So, but I get a text first thing this morning. They said Danny was hit by a car while walking the dog. So he went to the ER. So so it was not a good day for the Ulrich so far this week. But in the meantime, and obviously he's fine if he's chiming on our show. In the meantime, we had a preseason game Saturday night. We have another preseason
almost
game, on Monday night, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah. And sitting here I guess it's in pain. Yeah. In pain. I can imagine if a car hits you. Yeah. That's not good.
Yeah. No, that's pretty low on my list of to-dos.
No, but I'm sure I'm sure you're pretty scuffed up and bruised like a banana. But what I wanted to get from you guys tonight, since Bob, you saw it live, Sean, you saw it on replay, kind of the good, bad, and ugly of the preseason game. What did you like? What didn't you like? And what players surprised you? What players kind of like you were like, that's about what I expected? And what players like disappointed you?
The kid, the running back, Jones, was that his name?
Tony Jones, yeah.
I didn't even know we had a guy named Tony Jones. It was good to see my
articles then.
Yeah,
huh?
That was one of Bob's boys. I remember Tony Jones. Bob was pumping him last preseason.
I was really, aside from his fumble, I was really impressed with him. It's good to see my number relevant again. The much ballyhooed quarterback battle. Real quick, Taysom looked like he was pressing way too hard. And as you pointed out, Alan, after the fumble, he looked like he was trying so hard to get back into it that he just wasn't himself at all. Jameis, he looked good considering. He had a pick, but that's one of those with the asterisk because it was a tipped ball, which I still believe should not be credited to quarterbacks. And Ian Book, he looked impressive. He still looked like you said, Alan, he still looked like a rookie playing his first professional game. But he was making some good decisions. And then he would have a play where he'd have an absolute brain fart. But I was very disappointed in the ball security.
Yeah.
They would show a clip of Sean Payton on the sidelines, and he looked like his head was about to explode.
Hang on a second. I got to pull this clip. In the meantime, Bob, what did you like of the game? Well, who did you like and who didn't you like?
I'll go on the other side of the ball. I mean, first of all, I do like Tony Jones. I think he has outstanding vision. He surprised me with his receiving ability out of the backfield. So if that trend continues, that kid's going to get a lot of meaningful snaps in the regular season. Juwan Johnson, looked like he's very comfortable at tight end right now. And we know he can catch the ball. I like Juwan's ability to hold up as an inline blocker against defensive linemen, and Callaway looked sharp. But defensively, I thought the whole defensive effort, with the exception of a couple secondary breakdowns in the fourth quarter, was very solid. Zach Bond and Caden Ellis were all over the field, which is incredibly encouraging. Considering the two of them are going to take a back seat to Quan and Demario once the season starts. So that just tells you how deep this linebacking core could be. All the no names up front, with the exception of Onyemata, all the no names in the middle of that defensive line got some nice push and was stout against the run early on. And I thought Paulson Adebo had an outstanding game. He was targeted pretty early on. He had that one pass interference, which 10 years ago probably wouldn't have been. 20 years ago definitely wouldn't have been pass interference. But we know that kind of handsy play is going to get flagged today. But other than that, Paulson showed good reaction to the ball and held up extremely well in coverage. So I'm incredibly encouraged. So those are my goods that I'm going to take away from the game. I know we'll get into bads in a minute.
I really thought that Zach Bond was the one that, of everybody on the game Saturday night. Zach Bond's the one that made me sit up and go, "What the hell?" Yeah. We actually have a linebacker who's making all these plays. I thought.
And if I could interject something here, you got to bear in mind that these guys, as every one of the preseason games that I've been able to see thus far, as everybody keeps pointing out, guys like Baum, this is their first preseason game.
Yeah.
This is something that they did not have the benefit of experiencing last year going into the season.
But I mean, the play that stood out to me more than any other play, because this play is a killer, has been a killer against every defense Sean Payton's ever put out. The bootleg, when they run the bootleg, it's like our defense has never seen this in the history of football. They don't know how to defend it. Zach Bond defended it the way it was supposed to be defended. And I'm like, finally. And when we run the bootleg, when we try and run the bootleg, it's like everybody knows what we're doing. It's like we yelled, quarterback bootleg on this play, quarterback bootleg, so that defense is ready for it. But our defense traditionally has always been like, you can do that? The quarterback can roll out like that? So, it's just that was probably my best takeaway. I thought, as far as the quarterback battle is concerned, I thought Taysom started extremely well. The fumble happens, and then the turnover, the interception happens, which, as Peyton remarked that in the post game, Montgomery and he were not on the same page. He runs a stop, and Taysom is leading him like he's running a shallow cross. PJ Williams, your favorite cornerback, got an interception off the Minnesota Vikings on that exact same play.
Yeah.
Diggs ran a stop, and Cousins assumed he was going to run a shallow cross and threw it right to PJ Williams. But, I asked Jim Mora what he thought about, the running backs and all the turnovers, and,
Gets in there, gets a little hit, ball goes out. Shit, I don't know if that's effort or not. It's horse shit ball carrying, I know that. Horse shit.
So, I mean, Jim Mora thinks it's horse shit ball carrying, so he knows that. It's horse shit.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you guys? I know it's early.
And Adebo played very well.
Do you guys see Tony Jones possibly supplanting Murray?
I think it's a stretch at this point, but we've seen Sean Payton keep unproven backs over established veterans before. I compared Tony Jones to Pierre Thomas, with his vision. Now I realize those are awful big shoes to fill because Pierre was one of the best screen runners in the game's history. And Tony Jones has the major criticism on Tony coming out of Notre Dame was his receiving ability out of the backfield. Now he looked pretty good Saturday night doing so, and like I said, if that trend continues and he continues to run with authority between the tackles, he is in line to get some meaningful snaps. And listen, I know Latavius Murray had an absolutely lousy game on Saturday night. But with a running back of his style, when you have a backup offensive line in front of you, it isn't always going to be pretty in the preseason. So I'm not necessarily going to be down on Latavius for that. But in the long run, Sean, and I think this team is going to keep 3 halfbacks anyway. Assuming the fourth is going to be Ty Montgomery, who's going to predominantly play receiver. You have a fallback option there. But at this point, I can definitely see, obviously Kamara and Tony Jones has to be the front runner for a roster job. And Latavius is an established commodity because one of my biggest disappointments was Devontae Freeman. I think Jones could very easily usurp Freeman from the roster. But I can't see Latavius Murray getting cut. But I could see Jones cutting into his snaps if he continues to play so well.
That's just it. I think Murray is that power back. There's been a lot of rumors circulating around Murray right now. What's going to happen with him? I don't think Murray's spot is secure, but his replacement's not on this roster.
Yeah.
They would have to have someone come loose. And I know Mark Ingram is supposedly on the bubble over there in the Texans, but I don't know what would happen if the Texans cut Ingram. I don't know if Sean Payton would immediately call him up and bring him over. I don't know how that would work out, but I do think this next game is Devonta Freeman's next chance, and I'm gonna watch the snap count for Freeman. If Freeman doesn't get many snaps or doesn't do very much when he does touch the ball, and Tony Jones does, regardless if he's playing with the first team or the third team, I think Freeman's days are numbered.
Yeah.
And Jones could take his spot. It'll be interesting. We were talking about the offensive line. Neither Ramczyk nor Armstead played Saturday night. In fact, Ramczyk hasn't practiced since last week.
I know.
He has not been around, so I don't know what's going on with that. And I know McCoy was gone after the first series. They took him out, and they put Will Clapp in at center. So you only had Pete and Ruiz really in for most of the first quarter, and then they were gone. By the time Winston came in, they were gone too. So Winston played behind pretty much a second offensive line. The other thing that impressed me, not that I didn't expect it, but I was happy to see him, how well he came out and played, was Callaway. I mean, he was only in for 3 series. I think he caught 3 passes. But he got separation. He made the tough catches. That one pass that Hill threw falling down, that was all arm. That was a nice catch. It was a good throw, but an even better catch by Callaway. So, and Deontay Harris, we already know he's pretty much being groomed to be the number 2 guy.
Yeah.
While Thomas is out. So, it's going to be interesting to see, first off, if Harris does get suspended, which I think is why they brought in Kevin White. But who else makes this team as a receiver? They're trying to give little Jordan Humphreys a lot of looks, a lot of opportunities, and he's just not consistent. I don't know who else on the roster, though, they could go to. I mean, Ty Montgomery, it's your veteran guy. Chris Hogan, another veteran guy, but he's kind of more of an Austin Carr, kind of receiver. I don't see him even being active very much on game day if he makes the roster. So, by Bob, let's talk about Kevin White then. What does Kevin White bring to the team? He's a former first-round draft pick, number 7 overall draft pick in 2015, right?
Yeah, out of West Virginia by the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
What does he bring to the table? A chandelier body.
Yeah.
And Kevin White, you almost feel for the kid because he has had a ton of bad luck. He didn't play in his first 3 seasons with Chicago. He missed 50 of a possible 60 games or something like that. I know the details are in my article. Because he broke his left leg 3 times. He broke his shoulder once, like literally broke. Suffered a broken bone in his shoulder, caused him to miss the season. And then just since then, he hasn't been right. He sat out the 2019 season. Saw 3 games of action with the San Francisco 49ers last year, but was mostly on practice squad. So I do think, and I just saw the comment, it is fair to call him a bust because of his injury history.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, fans, this is a 0 risk situation for the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, yeah.
They're looking to bring a body in, and on the surface, Kevin White probably is a camp body, but what do you have to lose? Coming out of West Virginia, he had an incredible his second season with the Mountaineers before he came out. Over 100 catches, 1,400 yards. He's a 6'3" kid, coming out, and I doubt he runs this anymore because of the injuries, but he was a 4.35 guy. So he has devastating physical attributes. Again, that athleticism has probably been worn down, but he still fits the size prototype that Sean Payton likes in his receivers. And I heard that he made a couple plays in training camp practice today. So why not give him a shot? What else do you have to lose? The book on him is that there basically hasn't been a book on him throughout his 5-6 year NFL career because he's been hurt so much. The kid deserves a legitimate chance. Again, the Saints have nothing to lose with this signing.
He's a 4.2. I think he runs a 4.2, or he had run a 4.2 when he came out of college. I don't know if he still does that or not, but I mean, I liked him when he came out of college. But yeah, you're right. He's very fragile, and he's probably just nothing but a speed guy, and he has to show he can catch the ball consistently, and stay healthy. And I agree. It's a 0 risk signing. I don't think, like I always tell people, by this time of the year, there are no saviors that are coming on this team. No, you're pretty much rolling with what you got. This is just we need a body anyway. They cut Lampman. They cut Jalen McCleskey. So you need a body in there to see what he can do. And if he can do a little something for you, maybe he makes a team, maybe he doesn't. He could end up on the Saints practice squad for all we know, but he's not coming in to fill the number 2 spot. He's just a
maybe
guy
he can kick too.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a second. Yeah, because Saints are going back to, what was it? Was it 2013, 2014? What year did we cut all of our kickers? Right before the first game of the regular season, people like going, who's going to kick?
It was 14.
Yeah.
Pretty
We cut all. Yeah, I think it's either 14 or I know 16. We cut them all because we signed Lutz off of when Baltimore cut him, and I think Sean Payton's watching another kicker kick, and he's probably thinking, yeah, I might have to go to Baltimore again and get me another kicker, to fill in until Lutz comes back. So, I was surprised. I had a feeling there was something wrong when they had Cooney out there kicking off, instead of I always want to say Mayer, but it's Meyer, I think is how he says his name. I don't remember. He's not on the team anymore, so it doesn't matter. But anyway,
we don't have to care.
Yeah. When he wasn't doing the kickoffs, I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to try Cooney at place kicking. I would not be surprised to see if they can use him as a place kicker. But we'll see. I haven't seen the kicking carousel come in yet, so I don't know what they're planning on doing for a kicker. They may go for 2 on every touchdown scored, not kick field goals this Saturday night or on Monday night.
Garrett Hartley's still out there somewhere.
Yeah.
He's what? He would be, let's see, he was 23, I think, in 2009. So he would be 30, what, 32, 30, no, 34, 36. Yeah. Yeah.
He may not be able to raise his leg by now.
Okay. Oh, I didn't even think about this. How did Chad said Mike Haas did a pretty good job for his first radio call. Had a couple of mishaps, but covered it up well. He did work a long time ago. He worked as the other sports reporter under Jim Henderson. So, he's had a lot of good training with Jim Henderson. I think I wanted Mike Haas when Zach Streif got the job. And it's not a knock on Zach. I just knew what a good professional Mike Haas is.
Listening to Zach is like watching a car rust. It's just.
I think Zach got better.
But that bar was set pretty damn low, though.
But I'm just saying, the problem was Zach had to follow Jim Henderson.
Yeah.
And it's a lot like following Drew Brees. You're following a master who did it better than anybody else.
Exactly.
And that's what was so hard because people were expecting Jim Henderson. I mean, because I grew up listening to Saints radio because so many of the games were still blacked out at home. I can remember Larry Matson. I can remember, Wayne Mack and even Al Wester to an extent. I can kind of remember Al Wester, but that was right before I started really watching Saints football when he was still doing it in 1975. But Al Wester, in case people want to know, that's the voice that you hear for Tom Dempsey's kick. Tom Dempsey will try to kick the longest. That's Al Wester. He's the original Saints radio broadcaster. But Larry Matson was an old Channel 4 sports reporter as well. And that's where Larry Matson kind of took over in the Bum Phillips era. That's when he had it. Wayne Mack, he wrote the Saga of the Saints, 25-year history of the Saints. People who are familiar with local television, he was a local television host. God, I can hear Robert Treadway from here yelling the name at me. The great, what was he called? The great something. I can't remember. It'll come to me later. But that was what he was known for. He was a local radio guy, and he had a nickname. They would call him the Great something. I can't remember his name. But that's when WGSO had the Saints radio broadcast in the late 70s. That's when I heard him a lot. The Great McNutt. There it is. So I knew somebody would know. The Great McNutt. That's what he was known as. So, in fact, Danny Abramowitz was his color guy on the radio back then. Well, and when Danny wasn't drinking, because he was drinking back then a lot. So
that sounds like Bobby Aber.
Right?
You can listen to the post game and tell just how far in he is.
Oh yeah, and the preseason is so comical. I think because of that, because he's let's just say I think he's a lot more free, with his spirits during the game, during the preseason than he is the regular season.
And when the Saints win, he's really tanked up.
Oh yeah,
you can't. But
what's funny is when they lose because he loses his drunk ass mind.
Yeah, he does. Yes, he does. I used to love Buddy D'Alberto doing the point after though, because you'd have the usual callers call in: Abdul the Tent Maker, Sid, Bubba on the Magic Carpet, Dr. Kevorkian. That was during the Mike Ditka years. Dr. Kevorkian would call. And to deal with all the Saints fans that were on suicide watch. That's why he calls up Dr. Kevorkian. He says, "I'm here for you, Saints fans. You can't take this football team anymore. I'm here for your suicide watch." Oh, Buddy used to play the Good Ship Lollipop. When you talk about the scene, Bob's just swallowed. I mean, the actual song, talk about the front office of the Saints when Ditka was around with Bill Kuharic and all this stuff. And that's what he said, "Oh, the Good Ship Lollipop made a move today. They signed a player." And you have, "I'm the Good Ship Lollipop." It was hilarious. It really was. But those of y'all who, and there he is. I was just getting ready to mention Sid. It's fitting that Sean's going to a coughing fit. Sid from Jefferson would call, and it never failed. This dude would have an asthma attack or a coughing fit, and I kept waiting for him to drop the phone and just pass out. And Buddy go, Sid, we better call a Canadian ambulance. Go out there and go check on him. I think Sid just dropped dead." Because "Hey, Buddy," and then all the characters on the show. And that's what the point after is really fun to listen to these guys. Yes, absolutely. Listen to point after games that happen. But my brother knows this because my dad. This was like we just go watch this terrible game that I was miserable at. Especially in 1977, Hank Stram's last year was a miserable football game that I had to sit and watch. And my dad would go back and we'd get in the car and he'd put on WWL 870 AM because they were only AM and like relive this horrible experience we just went through. And I was just like, "Can't you put on music or something? I don't want to hear this stuff." But that was my dad wants to listen to relive this nightmare that we just got finished watching. Same thing in 1980. Come back from the St. Louis Cardinals game. We had 6 yards rushing. We got beat 40-6 or 40-8. We had just traded Chuck Muncie the week before, so I was not happy. They traded Chuck Muncie. And we're watching this game, and it's so bad. It is so bad. I'm ready to leave at halftime. People are cheering the paper airplanes landing in the Superdome on the Superdome field. The closer they would get to the players, the louder the crowd would get. And it's only 40,000 people in the dome. I mean, people can't imagine what it was like. But just all the paper airplanes, it was so miserable. And then they'd have the replays on the gondola screens below. And Archie would come on for Royal Oldsmobile and people would boo the commercial. That's how bad it is. And my brother's going to remember this really well. He remembers Ruth's Chris Steakhouse would advertise in the dome. And because the dome was so freaking quiet because there wasn't anybody in there, that at the very end they go, "Remember, it's a steak that sizzles." It's like, God dang, it's loud. But they were expecting to be broadcasting over 68,000 people in the dome, and there's only 35 to 40,000 pissed off people sitting there watching this game. So, you could tell when he gets. Yeah, that's right. When talking about Bobby. So Danny has been sober for you. In fact, my brother may or may not remember this. My grandmother became friends with Danny Abramowitz. So one Thanksgiving, we go to my cousin's house in Covington, and they brought my grandmother over there. I'm walking the door. Danny Abramowitz is standing in my cousin's kitchen. And this is right after, I want to say 2000, 2001. So he wasn't even the offensive coordinator anymore for the Saints. And, the whole time I'm just like starry-eyed. "Oh, Danny, I talked to you about this and talked to you about that and talked to you about football and what was this and what was that, So that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
Somebody asked me not too long ago, said, well, now that he isn't playing anymore, how long is it going to be before y'all have Drew Brees on the show? I said, I would not be capable of conducting that interview. I would be like that movie. You are my biggest fan.
Oh yeah, I'd make an ass out of myself, no doubt, because I'd be like asking Drew these questions, like, Drew, how in the hell do you see when you're only 6 feet tall? How do you see these guys?
If you guys like to listen to other podcasts, I have one that I highly, highly recommend. It's called Big Trust Levels. It's Cam Jordan and Mark Ingram.
Oh yeah,
and they're the one that I shared with you, Alan. They interview Drew Brees. That is must see. It was.
It is because they talk like fans. He was talking about
Cam Jordan is one of the funniest people that I have ever heard do a show.
He was hilarious, yeah. And yeah, we will get players, ex-players, mostly on the shows during the regular season. And, as you guys know, all three of us have contacts. I don't see us having a big enough reach for Mr. Brees, but you never know.
Yeah, Drew Brees comes on this show. We've just elevated this show to like the best Saints podcast out there. And, no offense to Happy Hour podcast or some of the other ones that are out there. I mean, that would be Drew Brees doesn't come on, fan shows. He comes on player show. But it's funny talking about that podcast with Cam Jordan and
Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram, thank you. I was thinking about when they were talking about the defenses, Drew's career and the defenses they went through and the struggles they had and stuff. And, Cam was talking about, I was on those defenses. I'm watching this stuff and I'm going, oh my God, Drew, you got to do something, because we can't stop them. So yeah,
you're talking about being in practice and Drew complete a pass and the defensive line looks at the secondary and the secondary looks at the defensive line and they're like, it's Drew, man.
Yeah.
He said when we got the bodies in the right places and we started getting that back end, he said I catch myself in the middle of the game going, this is what it's like.
It's like the old Randy Moss clip about Brett Favre, Drew Brees out there. I got to watch Drew Brees. Yeah. It's a lot of fun listening to players talk about things and sounding like the fans do, because it really reminds you how it is a game and how even though they're all these elite athletes, that even the elite athletes are just impressed and blown away by, what someone can do. And okay, one more thing I wanted to bring up. The NFL Top 100 list came out. And I guess NFL Network, they used to do it in segments of 10. I guess they're doing the entire thing in 1 or 2 nights. First 100 to 51, and then 50 to number 1. I didn't see the whole thing, but apparently a bunch of the Saints were on the back end of it. Teron Armstead made it for the first time, and people were kind of surprised about that. I never liked these things because I always feel like there's a lot of favoritism in it.
Absolutely.
Guys they like, that's who they put down as like their favorite kind of players. I would always enjoy. Anna wants to know if that podcast is on YouTube. It is on YouTube.
It is. Yes, it is.
You can get it. But I always felt like it wasn't objective at all. It was so totally subjective, and it was completely based off of whether or not the players like you.
Yep.
If you're not a very likable player, like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson will never be in the top 100. He just won't be. And I'm brought that up for a reason. I'm going to talk about the penalty thing in a second too. But What did you guys see it? Did you guys see the top 100 or
No.
hear about the top 100?
I got an update. I think that the Saints led all teams with players in the top half, like 3 or 4 or so. But I don't, like you said, I don't pay much heed to that stuff because it's all biased and slanted to me.
Well, here's the list. Okay, so Marshawn Lattimore was 86. Michael Thomas, who only played in 9 games, was 72. Cameron Jordan was 46, and I didn't think he had a very good year. Demario Davis was 64, way, way, way too low. Alvin Kamara was 42. Teron Armstead was 79. And I think that's everybody. I don't know if this is last year. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm getting everybody. Because I see Ryan Ramczyk at 82, but that's 2020. Yeah. I think that's everybody. I think it's everybody in the list. Yeah, because this is all 3 days ago, and yeah, okay, yeah. So
this man scored 6 touchdowns on Christmas Day, and you're telling me that there's 41 players in the league better than him?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And then Cameron Jordan, who I thought had a bad year, was ranked higher.
Yeah.
And Demario Davis ranked way, way too low.
Yeah,
that's why I said
yeah.
it's completely subjective. It's
Right.
who they like in the top. In the top one, I can guarantee you in the top 20, you're going to have names like Kyler Murray,
Aaron
um,
Rodgers,
yeah, Aaron Rodgers will be in there, but
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady would be number 1. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, those are the guys going to be up there. So it's just Trey Hendrickson was ranked higher than all the Saints players. And he happens to be a Bengal. So, it's just, like I said, it's kind of like Pro Bowl voting. It's not, it's so subjective that I don't think it's a very good ranking. I much rather coaches and front office people rank the top 100. But, then it's not a good list. I mean, then people don't like the list because like, well, fans should have a say in this. So the players, since they got to play these guys, should have a say in it. And I think coaches and front office people, if front office people are looking at like evaluation, talent evaluation. If these are the guys I'd want to have on my team.
Yeah.
So the first couple times he did it, I thought it was kind of neat, kind of interesting. But then I started seeing the same names over and over and over. The year that Jimmy Graham, I think, had like 15 or 16 touchdowns, didn't even make the list. Didn't even make the list. Not one, not in the whole 100. And I'm like, what? How do you do the stats? Put up the stats? Well, because he wasn't very well liked.
Yep.
So that's why he wasn't in the list. And Drew Brees, one time I thought they had him ranked way too low. That kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's what gets frustrating about that. Now, that being said, you've seen it. We've all seen it now. I thought the Indianapolis Colts game is the most egregious example of it. The NFL is cracking down on taunting, or as we will call it, the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson rule. Wellington Mara's son, John Mara, came out and said, yeah, we're cracking down because I'm tired of seeing that stuff out there. I'm tired of seeing these players say these things to other players out there. In PG language, what do you guys think of this? Because they're cracking down a lot in preseason to get the warning shot out.
Yeah.
So come regular season, they're not going to throw this many flags for taunting. And I don't think, like the Indianapolis Colts player who, after he ran through all those guys, popped up and did this, and they threw a flag, that was taunting. Really? What do you guys think of this.
I can see it being just like the way they did the no celebration rule a few years back. It'll be short lived, I think.
How about you, Bob?
Well, first of all, John Mara obviously got picked on as a child in school and has an issue.
Are you saying he got swirlies?
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably every day. Probably
got
every day.
atomic wedgies. Yeah, the whole bit. Got locked in his locker. Yeah, at prep school.
And as far as this rule, what you say makes sense, Sean, and I agree with you. But the bottom line is, and this is going to be a conspiracy theory coming out, but tell me I'm wrong. This is just another way that Goodell and his cronies want to have an intangible control over the game, so they could throw a flag that tilts the difference in a contest that involves one of their favorite teams or their favorite players. That's the way I see it. I don't see it having a major influence on many games at all, because these are athletes, and all three of us have been athletes at various levels. From the time you are in Pee Wee, not just football but any sport, you talk. That's just it. And the officials, the officials are going to let a lot of that go. Again, unless it involves one of Goodell's favorite teams or favorite players. That's where my worry and concern lies. Other than that, I just kind of brush it off.
I don't see. To be honest, when you're a defensive back and you defend a pass against a really good receiver, I don't think that there should be a place in the game for you to jump up and go putting your finger in your face, and that's unnecessary.
That's different, right?
It's a long game. You're going to have several opportunities to prove to him that you're better than him. But let you play on the field, do your talking. I have never been a party to the trash talking. I don't feel like there's a place for that in the game.
Well, going back to the old days, Dick Butkus was a notorious trash talker.
Mm-hmm.
Dick Butkus used to cuss you out. Doug Atkins, the great left tackle for the Baltimore Colts in the 60s, he actually had Alzheimer's and he passed away not long ago. Number 77, huge dude. I can't think of his name right now. It'll come to me in a minute. But anyway, he said Doug Atkins would start his trash talking the night before. He'd call him his hotel room and start telling him stuff about his mama and what he's going to do to him and that kind of stuff. Just get him all worked up. His thing was to get you off your game, because that was how he was going to get his step on you, because he knew he was a great player. And Alex, not Alex Karras, he was an old Detroit Lion and Baltimore Colt player. I can picture him.
Donovan.
No, not Art Donovan. No, he was a defensive back. I cannot think of his name. I can picture it, but he would tell he said he'd be crying to her. He can't call me that. He can't say that stuff about me and my mom and my wife and all these other things. And he's like, I'm sorry, there's nothing in the rule book saying he can't call your mama something, But that was the kind of game Doug Atkins played. It's the kind of game these guys played. And then you fast forward, now you're in the 70s. Cliff Harris in Super Bowl 10 infamously comes over and pats Roy Jarrella on the helmet after missing the third field goal. And Lambert spots it, grabs him, throws him on the ground. Notice no cowboy came over to help Cliff Harris.
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
Yeah. And
Lambert was seriously unhinged.
Yeah. Lambert sitting there doing the thumb up like this, get your ass out of here. You're not going to intimidate my kicker like that. And he said after the game, no one can be allowed to intimidate us. We're supposed to be an intimidator, although I'm supposed to say that in the John Facenda voice, because if you watch the Super Bowl 10 highlights, the next scene is Lambert his legs are bouncing as he's waiting for the snap. He can't wait to go get a piece of another Cowboy because and it says, Lambert used the incident to psych himself into a higher level of rage. You know, rooting and sifting till he found the ball carrier. And he Jack Lambert found the ball carrier 14 times in Super Bowl 10. And the last scene is him like getting up, putting his face on Preston Pearson's face mask to help get him up, just to push him a little bit further in the AstroTurf. That's all taunting today. I mean, that would be a penalty today, so it's what made these games legendary to me. It just, and granted, NFL Films makes it much more dramatic, but
Sure.
the emotion, you got 22 alpha males out there, highly competitive people. Of course, they're going to talk shit, and the media has been encouraging this for 30 years. That's Sports Center. That's Sports Center highlights. Seeing the big slam on another player, or the big the golf, Tiger Woods after he sinks a putt, doing that shake, or Lee Trevino used to do the fencing thing with his club. I think it was.
I mean, even the Dion.
Yeah.
When he would break out into the open. I mean, as a player, you have that shit done to you, it enrages you to no end. But guess what? The way to do that is stop it from happening.
Yeah.
Not try to the officials so you get a flag. And none of these players are going to, well, okay, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady aside, none of the real football players are going to cry to a referee expecting to get a flag on that kind of play. They're just going to go out extra motivated the next play. Let the people play the game, Goodell.
And you remember when Terrell Owens, when he was a 49er, stood out in the middle of the Dallas Cowboys star, like he's the star? He did it twice. First time, nobody did anything. Second time, here comes Emmitt Smith from the bench and pops him. So I mean, that's that. Yeah, Terrell Suggs would be banned. Mark Gastineau would be banned. Mark Gastineau, they used to be pissed off about that. Chichi Rodriguez. Thank you. My brother remembered. I thought it was Lee Trevino. It's Chichi Rodriguez.
Chichi Rodriguez.
Yeah. All right. There we go. So, yeah, I mean.
WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yep. With more music and less Nessman.
That's right.
The one where he decided to build himself an office and he taped off the floor. This was where the walls were and stuff. Yeah, that was a classic. That was a classic scene.
And when you came to talk to him, he expected you to knock on the door.
Knock on the door. Yep. Yeah, that was his office. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly. I think Les coming back after the turkey drop, when he got shut off the air and came back to the station and explained what happened after he went off the air. That's what made it funnier.
To this day, I cannot stop laughing uncontrollably that entire scene.
He says, then the crowd turned. Oh, yeah, that's what makes it so good, because you don't see any of this. It's all in your imagination.
Yeah,
that's what makes great comedy. So yeah. Oh
and Venus Flytrap, on the air. I am there.
That was a good show. My brother does. Speaking of podcasts, my brother occasionally does a MASH podcast where he talks about the show MASH. Where a lot of my humor comes from the first couple of seasons of MASH. Hawkeye and Trapper.
Yeah,
messing with Frank. Yeah, that's that. I like doing those kind of things. So, but I've never had a martini that tastes like lighter fluid though. But So this Saturday or this Monday, I'm old school. I keep thinking all preseason games on Saturday. This Monday, the Saints play Jacksonville.
Mhm.
Jacksonville let Tim Tebow go. They released him this week. I saw some of Tebow's play.
It was justified.
Yeah, oh yeah. I saw some of his play in the preseason game. I mean, a half-hearted effort on a block. He didn't
Yeah.
even run a very good route as a tight end. This was the epitome of a media stunt.
Yeah.
This was not a serious move. But what do you expect to see versus Jacksonville? Because aren't they supposed to practice with Jacksonville? It was on, it was off again. I think it's off.
It is
But
off. They were
okay,
supposed to have joint practices, I believe Friday, Saturday, maybe Saturday, but 2 days of joint practices
yeah,
that went back and forth before they finally canceled it. And I think that hurts both teams. I think the inter squad scrimmages, coaches have gotten a lot more out of that in recent years than they did the preseason games.
absolutely.
I'm very disappointed. But listen, I think Jacksonville presents a different kind of test than what Baltimore did, and for good reasons. You're going to see Jacksonville's starting offense for more series than we saw Baltimore's because they're breaking in, Trevor Lawrence, and even when Lawrence takes a seat, they're showcasing Gardner Minshew for a rumored trade. I don't think that'll happen, but either way, you're going to get Jacksonville's best offensive effort. They have DJ Chark, along with a couple other receivers that they brought in, and Travis Etienne, who's going to be a dynamic addition to their offense. So that's going to test those linebackers on the edge again,
Yep.
along with rebuilding their offensive line. So you're going to see Jacksonville pass the ball, test that Saints secondary. Is Adebo going to hold up? Is Crawley going to continue to play well? That kind of thing. What are the linebackers and pass rush going to look like? So I'm really excited to see that side of the ball, and then the other side. Just like I thought Baltimore was the perfect test for Jason last week, I think Jacksonville is the opposite end of the spectrum. They're a young defense. They brought in a lot of pieces to rebuild an awful defensive ranking last year. So this is a good test to see what kind of offense. And this is what I was paying closest attention to with both Taysom and Jameis last week was the offensive rhythm. And in my opinion, we saw a lot better rhythm with Jameis than with Taysom. But can either quarterback establish the kind of rhythm you want against a defense that's a much lower caliber than what you were seeing in Baltimore? In other words, it could be a game, should be a game to build your offensive confidence.
Yeah, because I think Jameis starts Monday night. I think he starts with, and they're going to see what he does with the first team. I don't know how long or who's going to be out there. I don't expect to see Alvin Kamara.
No.
I don't expect to see Ryan Ramczyk. I doubt we see Teron Armstead. So, how long does Marquez Callaway play in the game? Is this the game where they're going to try and see if Devonta Freeman was a bust, or are they going to just pretty much write him off and save him for the second half, and you get to play behind with Ian Book, and they're going to put Tony Jones out there? Does Murray bounce back? That's the kind of stuff I'm gonna be looking for. And on defense, exactly, I'm the same way. I want to see how these linebackers hold up against Jacksonville. And I'm actually kind of glad they don't have Tebow, because my God, ESPN's going to be talking about Trevor Lawrence so much. Can you imagine what would happen if Trevor Lawrence threw a touchdown pass to Tim Tebow? Yeah.
It's a drinking game's nightmare.
Yes.
Tebow shot.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's going to be a tough challenge for the Saints because there's a lot of talent on a lot of Louisiana talent, on Jacksonville. So I'm curious to see how Adebo holds up, because I think you're going to see a lot of Adebo. How does Ken Crawley hold up? I mean, I wouldn't really play Marshawn Lattimore. I put Crawley out there, and see how Crawley does. Crawley and Adebo out there, both of them. Let's see what you guys can do. We saw we didn't talk about him, but Prince is the Saint, formerly known as Prince, is no longer on the team. I knew I was going to screw up that joke. I've been preparing that joke all show, and I still screwed it up. The Saint, formerly known as Prince, is no longer on the team. I thought he looked terrible.
Yeah.
Hence his exit.
Yes. I mean, he looked like an undrafted free agent out there. He looked extremely old and slow. He did stupid things out there. I mean, his interference call was just horrible. I mean, no technique whatsoever. And that's a former number 1 draft pick. So, I want to see what these other corners can do. Is this the game that, what's his name of the kid that had a pretty good game against Carolina last year?
Grant Haley.
Grant Haley. He's been hurt a lot. Is this a game where Grant Haley makes a move? I thought we didn't talk much about him either, but I thought Bryce Thompson as a safety looked very good. He may push PJ Williams for that spot because both he and PJ can play safety / corner. So that would be an interesting battle right there.
I watched the
on Bryce Thompson, and I thought Eric Burrell played a good game too. He has an extremely steep uphill climb to make the roster, but both these kids at the very least have practice squad written on them. But like you said, and I like Bryce coming when they signed him out of Tennessee. If both of them could keep up their momentum, there's still some jobs to be had in the secondary.
Sean, you getting ready to say something? What were you going to say?
I watched the 49ers and Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Game the other. Would you believe that B.W. Webb actually started that game for the 49ers?
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know he was still alive.
He actually has been bouncing around. He was a Raven and a Giant at one point too after he left us. So he's bounced around the league a little bit.
His ability is about the same as what he had here too.
Well, one player who is now fighting for a roster spot, and I assumed he was going to be a starter on the defensive line, is Shy Tuttle. He is in danger of losing his roster spot to Jalen Dalton and Malcolm Roach, with Christian Ringo right behind him, waiting to get that spot. So that's something else to watch. It's not just who plays, but it's when they come in. When you start seeing guys that you're used to seeing start in the regular season or play a lot in the regular season showing up in the third and fourth, especially the fourth quarter, that's a warning right there. This guy's about to get cut. So let's watch where Devontae Freeman plays, even Latavius Murray. See when he comes in. Shy Tuttle, where he comes in. Let's see. Will Clapp, how long does he play out there? Ethan Greenridge. I didn't see Landon Young. Did Landon Young play? I was trying to watch for him. It was hard because we were celebrating my wife's birthday, and we had gotten Fat Boy Pizza. Holy shit, this box was big. Fat Boy Pizza is where Bobby does the point after show. It's over on Metairie Road. They're not sponsored the show. I don't know why I'm talking about it. This box, I shit you not. I can't hold my arms wide enough. This thing had to go in my daughter's trunk of her car. She couldn't put it in the back seat or in the front seat with it. It was that big. It wasn't that good a pizza. I gotta admit, it wasn't that good of a pizza, but it was huge.
So much for sponsorship now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, sorry, I just ruined any kind
of maybe that's what drove Bobby to drink. Who knows?
Before that, you had the ad slogan down, Fat Boy's Pizza. Holy shit, that's a pizza.
Yeah, what a line. That's why they had call me Don Draper. No, the guys I want to sponsor the show are Drago's Charbroiled Oysters, where they can send out the free samples. So we would go ahead and promote the show. So, Tommy, if you're watching, I'd love to have you sponsor the show. just we don't ask for much money. Just throw some charbroiled oyster our way, and I'm good to go. I'm happy with that. But
yeah, a lot of good that does me and Bob.
no, they can
I
ship
don't
it. They can ship it. They do ship those oysters.
I don't want oysters shipped to me in Pennsylvania where I have to eat on the live show.
There you go. All right.
I don't do oysters anyway.
You would do these oysters. I'm telling you, you would do these oysters. When the Saints are making a pitch for a player to come to the team, they go to Drago's. I'm just telling you, that's what they do.
Enough.
They go to Emerald's too, but Drago's is the one that the players come back and go, holy crap, this is good. There I go, same line. But okay. So yeah, that's the stuff to watch for this weekend. There's supposed to be another cut. I thought there was only one big cut.
I thought so too.
They cut another 5 players. Am I right, Bob?
Got to be down to 85.
No, they're 85 right now. I think they cut another 5 or maybe 10 on this one. I don't know.
They have to do at least another 5 or whatever. 5 because they got to be at 8 by 4:00 Eastern time on Tuesday the 24th. And that's where the cutting rules, the roster rules have changed a little bit as opposed to the previous 2 years. That's why we saw the 5 players cut. Is Sunday and into Monday. We'll see that same kind of thing. We might even see a couple players released before game time. And the Saints are still making a flurry of moves. They brought in White and 3 more players today, including Natrell Jamerson.
Yeah, they brought him back.
And moved a couple players onto injured reserve and or released them. So we're not only without Prince. The team lost a god today. Adonis was released. It was an injury designation. So we'll see at least 5 players released by Tuesday afternoon. We might see a couple before game time. The more realistic is we'll see them early Tuesday morning from New Orleans.
Yeah, I just pulled it up. It was on the 17th, Tuesday, they down to 85. Then next Tuesday, down to 80. And then the following Tuesday, the 31st, it'd be down to 53. Yep. And I'm telling you right now, the 53 that you see on this team that Tuesday is not going to be the same 53 that will play Sunday. I can guarantee that. There will be a lot of roster moves in the bottom half of that roster as they watch to see who got released. You know who got released? I don't know if you guys noticed this or not. When you talked about the 49ers earlier, they cut Josh Rosen. He is now homeless after this is his, 3rd team?
Yes.
4th team since being drafted by the Cardinals. So, yeah.
If you count the Cardinals, his 4th team.
Because it was Cardinals, Tampa,
Miami.
Yes, I forgot about Miami because he went to Miami. So it was Cardinals, Miami, then Tampa, then the 49ers.
He played in that game that I watched, and he didn't look good at all.
Josh Rosen, Anna, was the quarterback drafted in 2017? No, 2018.
18. I think 18.
Yeah. When did the Cardinals draft Kyler Murray? 19?
19. So it was 18.
Okay, 2018. And I think he was the 5th overall pick, maybe 4th overall pick.
Somewhere up there, yeah.
Yeah. He was a top 10 pick. And the Cardinals fired their coach and brought in Cliff Kingsbury, and he drafted Murray to run his Texas Tech style offense. Yeah. So it's an interesting journey for this kid. He just can't stick around anywhere. And actually, one of the knocks on him was his personality.
Yep.
Well, he was overrated coming out of college. The biggest thing that made him a big time player was the uniform that he wore. He went to one of those California schools.
Yeah,
There was two of
UCLA.
them. Yeah, there was one from UCLA and one from USC, and they hyped the piss out of them, and both of them were busts.
Yep. Rosen, and he had the looks. He's got the blonde hair, the blue eyes, the gun for an arm. Listen, Kyle Mosley and I interviewed, had two separate interviews with Coach Jim Mora, Jr., the young one. Two pre-draft interviews, and I believe it was in the second one, where after we came back from a break. And I had been dying to ask him because Coach was, Coach was at UCLA and was Rosen's coach. So when we were talking about quarterbacks and what coaches should look for in a quarterback, blah blah blah, I had asked him point blank, how do you feel about your former guy Josh Rosen not really getting, and this is the way I worded the question, not really getting a fair shot to succeed in the NFL. And Coach barely let me, and there was so much hidden meaning in what he said and didn't say, but he fired back instantly with, well, Josh has had his chance. He just hasn't done it. And he went on to say, I'd love to pull up the interview sometime. But he went on to question without openly throwing Josh under the bus. He would question his locker room personality and his work ethic. I tried to press him a little bit more, but you could just tell by the look on his face I wasn't going to get much, so I backed off. That interview told me a lot about how his own college coach felt about him, like you questioned.
Well, I pulled up his draft prospect, and first off, it was funny. One of the NFL things that shows up is how Josh Rosen is the best quarterback of the draft, and the Cowboys should take him, which would be perfect. But that's beside the point. But I mean, this is one of the tricks or one of the problems, and I think why so many fans want Jameis Winston to work out for the Saints. Listen to this description of Josh Rosen, and this is a classic example of a guy who physically has everything you're looking for at a quarterback, but there's something wrong or something missing. Josh Rosen's footwork and mechanics make him as pretty a quarterback as you'll find in this year's draft. The biggest concern with Rosen is his on-field success requires many elements to stay on schedule. He lacks plus arm strength, so identifying coverage pre and post snap and throwing with anticipation takes on added importance. Rosen has the pocket poise, the accuracy, and intelligence to be an elite NFL starter, but needs to be willing to take what defenses give him more frequently. Rosen will need to quell concerns surrounding his leadership and coachability early on in order to establish a strong first impression and get his career off on the right foot. So, they compared him to Trent Green, just as a comparison. But you see he checks all the boxes. He's got the size. He's 6'4", 230. He's got a good arm. He's got great mechanics, accurate, great poise, cool under fire, but leadership questions, decision-making process, those kind of things, and all the red flags that pop up, and it's probably why he bounces around the league so much.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it's arguable that being a leader is equally as important as arm strength, poise in the pocket. You have to have that out of your quarterback.
Well, that was the knock on Steve Walsh. Steve Walsh didn't have a great arm, but he could make most of the throws. I broke the chair, I think. Oh, there we go. We're back. But Bobby Hebert said when it came to leadership on the team didn't respond to him like they did responded to Bobby. Bobby was very much the rah-rah, just like how he is on the radio, the rah-rah guy that the players respected because he was willing to put his body on the line to make a play. I rewatch a lot of games from 1990, 91, and 92 especially 91 when Steve Walsh came in and filled in those games when Abear was injured. And you could see there are a lot of plays where Steve Walsh doesn't put himself out there to make the play. There's a Tampa game in particular, 91, where the blitzer is coming at him and he doesn't step into the throw to make the throw, and he actually throws an interception. He tries to throw up his back foot to get away from the hit. And because he did that, he threw an interception. So the players all see that in the film room. The eye in the sky doesn't lie. And they'll see that happen in games. The 49ers game in 91, where he almost leads the great comeback to win the game and bobbles the snap and doesn't jump on the ball right away. And the 49ers end up scooping the ball up, getting it all the way down to the 2-yard line, and they score on the next play, and the game's over at that point. But that was a drive, a final drive that could have won the game for the Saints. So that kind of stuff. The players see that and recognize, this guy is not a leader, so I'm not going to follow him. If he's not willing to sacrifice, why should I? And I think that's what hurts Rosen. And I think that's something that, we can talk about mechanics wise and who looks good throwing the ball, who doesn't when we come to Murray and Winston and Hill. But who is it the guys are willing to follow? Who is the guy they really, really like? And I think they like something about both of these guys. They like Hill can sacrifice his body. Hill is fun to watch. When he runs the ball and runs over people and pops up, they see that on the film. They see that defensive back when Hill drops the shoulder and runs him over. And Winston, he's got the fun personality. He's dancing. He's cutting up. You saw him out there, both hands out, slapping, high five, and everybody coming in off the field and stuff. So it's so where does Peyton make the decision? Who do you guys? I don't want to say who do you guys think is going to be the starter, because we all kind of agree who we think the starter is going to be. But what do you think is going to be a deciding factor when Peyton does make the decision with either Winston or Hill?
Bob?
And I've said this many times, and this is what I think Sean Payton has at the very top of his list: offensive rhythm. We know, and it's no secret, Sean Payton demands a certain rhythm and pace out of his offensive system. And and I think that's what he's looking for out of these guys. He realized, Sean's ego thinks and believes that he can make whichever quarterback is going to be the starter, not into Drew Brees type of accuracy because he's realistic, but he believes that he can improve on whatever efficiency boxes need to be checked. He needs his guy to understand what he wants to do in the huddle and on the field, and he wants that guy to be an extension of him. And because of that, I think that's why Jameis Winston is going to ultimately be the starter, because he can do more things on a typical quarterback's rhythm than what Sean's looking to do. That makes sense in my head. I don't know if it made sense coming out of my mouth.
No. I understood what you were talking about. Sean, what do you think?
I got to agree with Bob. You got to have somebody that's going to establish the rhythm of this offense and do it in a way that is complementary to the plays that you're calling, the coaching style, the players that you have on the field. But as we were just talking about, it's also going to have to be somebody that he knows these guys are going to follow.
Yeah,
I agree with that. And I the thing about, and this is the critical thing for Winston, and I've said this a dozen times, I'll say it again. The number one overall pick in the 2016 draft is fighting for his job and can't seem to get the big lead on an undrafted free agent, who was injured all 4 years he played quarterback at BYU then went on his, they don't call it a pilgrimage. What do they call
Mission.
it? Mission. Thank you. They went on his mission. So he's now 31 years old. And Winston can't seem to separate himself from that. He can't, if he was going up against, let's say we had, I'm trying to think of a marginal starter. Let's say we had Jimmy Garoppolo on this team competing against Jameis Winston. You'd have a heck of a time making the argument that Winston is a lot better than Garoppolo. Winston can physically make the throws Garoppolo probably can't. But Garoppolo would have as much of, I guess, the intangibles and be able to run this offense in rhythm and things that we were just talking about, the leadership stuff, that Winston would have. So then it just becomes a battle of, well, does Sean Payton want to go to a more vertical game, or with Garoppolo, is he going to play like what he did with Breeze? A lot of short passes, run after the catch, a horizontal game. I think in that case, I would sit there and go, you know what? I wouldn't put Winston, pencil him as a starter. There's a very good chance he would go with a Garoppolo, I'm just trying to think of a guy that the Saints would, a marginal starter that the Saints would probably get in competition. It's not as raw as a Taysom Hill, so that's what's concerning to me. And I'm the same way with you, Bob. I think this preseason game is going to be a critical one for Winston. Not so much he's going to lose his job. Winston's not going to lose his job. He's not in danger of being cut. But I think this is a critical game where he has to make the statement. It's time for me to become the starter of this team and make the decision for Peyton. So the last preseason game, that's the game where it's boiled down to the Chase Hansons. He's fighting for a roster spot. The Bryce Thompsons, those guys are the ones you're watching. Tony Jones, this is where they have to make their statements. Lil Jordan Humphreys. But the quarterback battle is over with, because they're going to break camp and they're getting ready to go prepare for the Packers. So that's what I think we have to watch for Monday night. Is this the game where Winston looks like he's got this offense in rhythm, and boom, he's getting us down the field. He scores a touchdown the first drive. The second drive, probably not a field goal because we have no place kicker. I mean, he gets the team in scoring position again where maybe he runs a running play, and we score again. That's what needs to happen in this game.
And I think it's absolutely critical for the entire team's success that it happens. Because we've all three said this before. Both of these quarterbacks have vastly different skill sets, and for a coach, for an offensive geared coach like Sean Payton, you want him to have the time to build the offensive cohesion around his starter. Yeah. So the sooner this quarterback battle is settled, regardless of who wins it, the better it's going to be for the entire team. So I think Jameis Winston played a much better football game than Taysom Hill did overall on Saturday night. I think the offensive rhythm looked much better with Jameis than it did with Taysom on Saturday night. But would it have been enough for me based off of what I saw to anoint Jameis as my starter, boom, right after that game? No, absolutely not. And that's why what you're saying, what both of you have said, is so crucial. That Jameis has to separate. If he's going to be the guy, he has to separate himself Saturday night. Otherwise, this team is going to be in trouble early in the season, at least on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, today I was reading John Hendrick's report from the training camp. Today was Hill's day. He had a good game. He had a good practice. Tomorrow, Winston will have a good practice. They can't keep having this. You need to put 2 or 3 good practices in a row and separate yourself. Somebody's got to make the step forward, because otherwise, like we were talking off the air, we get a Woodstock situation where we may start Taysom Hill until he starts to struggle, and then here comes Winston, and Winston's going to run a 4-minute offense, get some points. Oh, Sean's doing his cocaine, so he's having some problems. But yeah,
Yeah, but I still I look at it this way though. As much respect as I have for Sean Payton, I still live by the old saying: if you don't have one quarterback, or if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one quarterback. You can only have one guy that this team is going to follow. And that's the way that I felt the entire time that we were dabbling with Breeze and Taysom. That infuriated me. Now, yes, there were benefits to it from time to time, but everything that we just talked about with the timing and the rhythm of the offense, when you change that man behind center, that destroys that.
Yep.
Well, it becomes it it disrupts the rhythm. And, I don't think if there's a Woodstock situation, I think it's going to be a lot more of Taysom coming in, running a lot more plays if Winston's the starter, because he doesn't have a feel for the game. He's like, I'm trying to create a spark. I'm trying to get some rhythm in this offense, and it's not happening. I don't think it'll be anything as horrible as Roger Staubach and Chad Morton. For those,
Craig Morton.
Craig Morton. Chad Morton was a former Saint. Craig Morton, where they literally changed every play.
Yeah.
Run a shuttle system. I don't think it'll ever get to that point, because even the Cowboys were like, "What the hell is going on?" Pick a guy. We can't.
Well,
pick a guy.
And I've said this before, and all three of us are historians, so we already know this. But I will remind the viewers that I've written about this in the past too. There are only 3 teams in the Super Bowl era that have won the Super Bowl with a quarterback back and forth that went well into the season. The 71 Cowboys with Staubach and Morton, but they settled on Staubach by the end of the year and went on a run. The 74 Steelers with Hanratty, Gilliam for a little bit too, and Bradshaw. But they settled on Bradshaw towards the end and went on a run. And the 87 Washington Redskins, who just had a fluke at the end of the year between Jay Schrader and Doug Williams. Williams got hot in the playoffs, and Joe Gibbs stayed with him. Now, the Woodstock situation that you're so fond of bringing up, and I think it's an accurate comparison, that 82 Miami Dolphins team actually did go to the Super Bowl, but it was in a strike-shortened year. I think, what they play, 9 games, 8 regular season games?
9 games, yeah, and there was a seeding system for the playoffs.
Right. That quarterback controversies or quarterback back and forth, they're outliers when it comes to success. And it's impossible, like Sean just said, to have sustained success.
Yeah.
Because as you put it, Sean, you don't have, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there was 2 other years that somebody may decide to try and bring up as a comparison. But those were injury replacements. Phil Simms getting knocked out in 1990. And then you had Hostetler come in in 1979. Pat Hayden get knocked out, and Vince Ferragamo, carrying the team, it's funny. Again, we're going to make a reference to a movie. In the movie Heaven Can Wait, 1978, that movie came out. What is that movie about? The Rams starting quarterback gets knocked out, and the backup comes in. Of course, the backup wins the Super Bowl against the Steelers in the Rose Bowl stadium.
And the Rams almost won that Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Waddy was wide open, Ray. Waddy was wide open. Yep.
Yeah.
That's by the way, if you guys watch that.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you guys watch that NFL Films, document or film on that, that is the Saints' first defensive coordinator you hear talking. The heavyset guy, why the hell didn't he audible? That's Jack Faulkner. He was the Saints' first defensive coordinator back in 1967. Just throwing
Wade
that out
Phillips
there.
was in the booth too on a lot of those shots.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right. What were we gonna say, Sean?
I was just going to say that to me, replacing a starter due to injury is completely a different scenario.
Absolutely.
That's a must. But when you have two guys and you can't settle on one, neither is the team behind them.
Right. And the 71 Cowboys, 74 Steelers, 82 Dolphins, 87 Redskins. They were back and forth all year long. Yeah, but again, if you can only name 4 teams that went to a Super Bowl out of the 55 out of 110 teams that have gone to Super Bowls in the Super Bowl era, that's not a ratio I like.
Right.
No.
Right. All right. We managed to stretch this out to an hour and a half. That's what happens when Sean doesn't have cooking going on and we kind of lose track of time. Guys, what I want to do next week, we'll talk about, of course, the second to last preseason game, but I kind of want to break down the schedule now, based on the teams that we know now pretty much how this team's going to look. We'll have a better picture how the defense is going to look next week. I'd like to look at the first half of the schedule and see where you think the challenges are and which games you think are going to be the games that are, pretty winnable. I mean, I think the opening day game is going to be a challenge, a serious challenge. You're playing
At best.
Packers. Yeah, you're playing the Packers, but that's
the only benefit to that is going to be being in the Superdome.
Yep.
If everybody shows a vaccination card and gets in, we get 80,000 people in the stadium. But yeah, so that's kind of where I want to go with over the next couple of weeks. We'll take the first half next week, and the following week we'll take the second half because as my brother pointed out, it's going to be almost 2 full weeks between the last preseason game and the Saints' first regular season game, because they got to make sure everybody's finished. So the Thursday night game, they've got a full week just like everybody else does. So yeah, so we'll talk about that next time. And Bob, I mean, I know you just got back from your honeymoon. Any articles you have coming out soon that you want to spotlight?
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting back into the workflow. Still trying to get my teenage daughter enrolled into school, and I have a week to do that. And buying a new car, so life is coming at us pretty hard. But there are 2 things I'm going to really. One article I'm going to come out with probably lunchtime or shortly thereafter tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to highlight the 2020 rookie class for the Saints. And how much more importance their success or failure is going to have on the Saints season. Because a lot of these guys basically had redshirt years last year. So I'm going to highlight that in a little bit more detail. And then as we edge towards the Jacksonville game, I'm going to do what I usually do, things to watch on both sides of the ball. Don't pay attention to the final score, et cetera, et cetera. And instead of guys that I'm going to look at guys that really have to have a bounce back performance after down practices or a very down game against Baltimore. We talked about a lot of those guys today. Devontae Freeman is at the top of my list, but we talked about a few of those guys today. So those are the kind of focuses I'm going to have as we head towards Jacksonville.
Yeah, I just realized I was really loud. I'm in this hotel room and I'm like, I don't know how loud it is coming across in the show, but I'm probably way too loud for being in a hotel room. So I'm surprised nobody's beating on my door. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those articles because there's a lot of questions to review on this team. As always, I think the bottom half of this roster is in total flux. So we'll see how that goes. Sean, we'll be on next Tuesday night. Is there any problem with you being on Tuesday night?
No, not at all.
Okay. Like I said, this is probably the most important game coming up. So that's the one this is the equivalent of the third preseason game for me. I think I'm curious to see if Peyton holds the starters out a lot longer in this game, or does he just kind of go to the same rotation he did last time, where they have a certain amount of series, as he kept calling phases. You got the first phase with the starters, the second phase, the second team, and so forth. If Trevor Siemian is even going to make the team, I don't even know if he's even going to get any looks or anything like that. I'm going to talk a little bit about that with next week too with Taysom, because I don't think they're going to use Taysom as a receiver and special teams and that kind of stuff anymore.
Well, like you pointed out a few weeks ago, if you've got him as your backup quarterback, you can't afford to put him at risk like that.
Yeah, yep. Exactly. All right. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Now I know how Bob feels when he's ready to get off the show because it's so late. And we'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.
Yeah.